The Wyatt Six have debuted on Monday Night Raw. They're here, ladies and gentlemen, and so are we. Myself and NXT are in the house, and we're going to be giving our reaction to the debut of the Wyatt Six, as well as we're going to be discussing potentially what is next for the group. That's going to be, the big direction. What's the storyline purpose of everything that we saw unfold, and what was a magical end to Monday Night Raw this week. Of course, on side of that, Drew McIntyre quits WWE, inverted commas, but for how long is probably the big question with that one. And of course, say his name and he appears. Joe Hendry appeared in NXT, but not for very long. We'll be discussing more about that as well, giving our thoughts of Joe Hendry in NXT. But first off, NXT in the house with me. Hope you're doing well, my friend. And basically, before we go into any sort of fan fiction, I just want your basically thoughts and feelings of seeing the debut of the Wyatt Six at the end of Monday Night Raw this past week.
Dude, you can't go wrong with a bit of spooky bollocks, can you? Really? Like, I just thought it was great the way that they had the blood and stuff, and I was like, oh, they've gone proper like 18 with this stuff, like 18 certificate rated. Like, this is not child friendly. We had blood up the walls. We had a dead Chad Gable, dude. I just thought it was great. Like, I think the presentation was fantastic, and the one shot going from the ramp through to the backstage, through to the back, and then coming all the way back again. I just thought the art style was just great. It's an exciting time. I'm kind of like on the fence with a lot of people, and it's kind of like I'm trying to not get too excited about it, just because, this is supposed to be essentially an homage, hopefully, possibly, and I'm hoping that they do it justice.
Yeah, I really want to see this done justice as well. And I've got to say that early thoughts about this, I thought it was a really good debut or return, whatever you want to call it. But as a group, as this sort of informant, I really liked the presentation. To sound very geeky for a minute, because I'm a media student, I love the camera work. I love all the, the shots and stuff and how they played through the backstage everywhere. And we saw all the bodies laid out and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it was a bit sort of like, the thing is, it was like watching a bit like Stranger Things meets The Blacklist, like with all the sort of like, it felt like dead bodies backstage, but in a very creepy, spooky things around as well. But of course, the jokester inside of me, of course, thinks, well, they've tried the Nexus storyline again, haven't they? We've just taken over the end of a show, and hopefully it can work out better than what it did for them. But I have hope that it will, because if you take the Joker side out of it, obviously the debut was very moving as well. Obviously the thinking we all miss Bray Wyatt, of course, and the fact is that now a faith has been put in to continue this story and to continue that vision. Uncle Howdy, of course, is the leader of the pack. Of course, we've got your Rambling Rabbit, of course, who's now Eric Rowan, formerly Eric Redbeard on the indie circuit, but of course was part of the original Wyatt family. Of course, Joe Gacy is the Huskus character, of course, the Husky character that was there. Abby, of course, will be played by Nikki Cross. Really thought her visual mask looked really, really cool. And of course, Dexter Loomis seems to be playing the other character, the Mercy character as well. And it looked really cool, the presentation, the way that it was all done. And of course, everyone thinking they've seen different superstars. Then, of course, Chad Gable is the obvious one. And yes, did manage to get a quick banner of it just to show anyone that happened to miss it. There you are, poor Chad Gable. What a bad day at work for him, by the way. Lost his match, lost his group, and then, of course, well, look, looks like he's been murdered, doesn't he? Let's be fair. Not confirmed at the time of recording what the result is for Chad Gable, but wish him a speedy recovery. But what I would say is that all these different bodies are meant to blend, and everyone making out as different people as well. I mean, I've seen the image of what's meant to be Gunther, people expressing the ideas of Dominic Mysterio, Carmelo Hayes. There's been a number of different people that have been bannered about backstage, and just wonder what the link is together, why those people are targeted.
Well, the thing that I heard was that if you look at them, all of them, they've all done something wrong to people who they class as family. So Dominic obviously calls his father a deadbeat dad. Gunther has literally just kicked Giovanni Vinci out of Imperium. Obviously, Chad Gable has obviously just had this whole thing with the Alpha Academy, and then obviously Carmelo double-crossed on Trick when they was in NXT together. So that's supposed to be the rumor, but I don't know. I don't know if it actually was them. I think a lot of the things, like I saw a lot on the line that a lot of them, like one of them was supposed to be Braun Strowman. Braun was like he wasn't even there. Braun had already left apparently. So I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. I suppose it's all fantasy booking in a minute, and it's kind of like it's you kind of like, well, I really want to know what the plan is now. Like, they're here. What's the deal, really? And yeah, like I said, I think most of it's just been, like I said, a lot of it's all family related. They've all double crossed their family, and essentially all these 5 characters are meant to have been people that have been let down. Like, I saw something that it basically broke down the reason why each of them had been recruited, and it was a case of with Nikki, it was a case of she was looking for a friend in Candice LeRae. Obviously, that never worked out. Dexter had a family in the way, and obviously they essentially cast him aside. And Eric, obviously, he was with Brain, he was with Brody, and obviously they've passed away, so he's kind of on his own now. Joe obviously had a faction, like people that followed him, and they all left him. And obviously, Bo, who plays Howdy, obviously the same thing. His brother's passed away, so if they go with that, dude, it sounds killer. I'm just like, again, I'm just trying to not be super excited in case it's like it doesn't live up to what my brain is telling me.
Yeah, I mean, that's the feeling. And of course, I love everything you've just said. There's some of the things I'd heard, some of the things I hadn't. So it's kind of interesting to hear those, especially of how the reasons of the members being put together as the group, because collectively, we've got what could be a super group going forward, where if you looked at the names individually, maybe they've been a bit lost in the shuffle. Maybe they wouldn't be, haven't been used on TV for a while. So it looks like for a lot of them, this is a great opportunity to be put together, and like they're not being led by, like I don't know, one of the top names in the company. So they've kind of got free range of what they're going to do. And the spirit of Bray Wyatt potentially could be that final member. There's other rumors that Alexa Bliss could be coming back, that could be involved with this. So it's interesting to see. But I love the fan theory, like you said, of the rumor going around of the family element of it and stuff with why those people were backstage. And that's what leads me to think, what is next? Because I was worried at the start as well. I was like, well, as cool as this is really, really cool. But I was like, I don't see where you follow this up. That was my struggles. It was like, brilliant, but what next? And that's why I made a Nexus connection there a couple of minutes ago in my joke. But it's like, at the same time, I now start to think, well, hang on, there's one of 2 ways you can go about this. Way number one is that everyone is aware what happened, and everyone's like, whoa, you're going to try and keep out of the way of this. Everyone's frightened for their position backstage. Everyone's frightened to come to work. You can have different elements like this. But idea number 2 could be, what if it's an illusion? What if it's not something that actually happened? It's all in the imagination, and everyone's actually fine next week. And maybe it's a ploy of something that could happen to these people. Like I said, the betrayed family and stuff like that. If they can continue going down the wrong path, they'll be followed on. Because if you consider the idea, and everyone's on social media is pretty written off Chad Gable, that he's been murdered off of WWE. This it's not TNA. I know we've got the connection with TNA going on, but how do you make sense of it next week? He's supposed to be in the Money in the Bank qualifying match. So if he's going to turn up and he's going to feel fine, then you need to have good reason of the fact that this is just all of the imagination. It didn't actually happen. Or it has to be a case of, well, he's all right. He's hurt, but he's going to need a week off. We're going to need to do that qualifying match the following week on Raw. Because otherwise, for me, this is where I start to find little red flags.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, like again, I'm not trying to like throw shade on it already, and even though you've already made an obvious point that how do you play off Chad Gable alone in the fact that he's essentially been murdered on TV, and what he's supposed to come back next week and have insomnia of the prior week and not remember actually what's gone on. And I mean, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I can't even fathom this at this exact point how they're going to do it. I'm sure there obviously is a plan. They've been planning this for 4 months. There's obviously some sort of story or whatever worked out for this. I mean, I have faith that it will come good. It's just a case of it's just going to be interesting to see how they're portrayed every week, because you've kind of already set the bar really high with the first interaction where you've, like I said, you've got blood smeared up the wall, and it looked like something out of a horror film like Aliens and stuff, where all the lights are flashing on and off, and do you know what I mean? There's fog and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, like I'm just hoping that this isn't kind of like the high point, and again go back to saying that it's not going to be a disappointment. But yeah, continuity I think is going to be really key with these guys. I know obviously they've had Bronson Reed turn around this week and say, well, does that mean I get a bye? Because obviously with one of the people supposed to be Braun Strowman and then one of them Chad Gable, and there's meant to be a triple threat. Bronson Reed's like, well, do I automatically get in then? Because essentially everyone else is like incapacitated. So, yeah, hopefully. I mean, are they going to be specifically tied to Raw as well? Because I think the other thing I've read as well is that there's going to be certain members of the roster they're never going to interact with, who I imagined are like champions or whoever, because like this is a group essentially that really doesn't need titles. I really just want them to be purely story based for entertainment, and I think that's, for me, I think that's going to be the key mark to leaving a legacy for this faction, because we've seen it before with, like you said, Nexus and Retribution. We've had these great ideas for factions, and then they just go completely down the drain. This really has to be like a real story-driven faction for me that has to have reason. Like, you know, essentially how Undertaker was portrayed in the 90s. Like, dude, ominous music coming out in the dark. I mean, like, if these guys ever have wrestling matches, which I presume they will, I'd want it to be like, I don't want them to wrestle with all the house lights up. I want it to be like Hell in a Cell 2019, Bray versus Seth, like red lights and stuff. I want it to be ominous and eerie and spooky bollocks, essentially. Like, I want them to have a presentation about them that's just not what we normally get. Like I hate to say it, even the Mountain Dew match with the black and white, like the illuminated paint and stuff, like the black lights and stuff, even do that kind of stuff, just present them differently to how everything else has been done prior.
I like a lot of what you said there. I mean, especially championships. I'm going to be the first thing I want to talk about that, because yeah, I agree. This sort of thing with these style of groups. But I know it's the rumors going around that they're not meant to be supernatural, which for me is a big win. I love the fact that
that's a big, that's a good idea.
That's awesome. They're just going to be vicious. They're going to do their business, and then boom, they're out of there. Fantastic. I'm down for that 100%. I'm more invested in that alone very quickly. But when you look, like for example, what you mentioned with championships, you go back to the Fiend, for example. Within his second or third match, he's going for the championship, and it was like, no, we want this guy to just create dominance and create chaos, and that's what that was all about. And then, of course, once you go for it, you have to win the championship, and then all of a sudden, when you lose the championship, obviously there was Goldberg, but you have to lose the championship, and when you lose it, then that's all of a sudden where people start turning on the group. So it's a very difficult balance you have when someone's meant to be this unstoppable, this chaotic, this taking over kind of vibe, because when people take over companies and stuff, like we've seen it before with your NWOs, your Shields, you mentioned, for example, some of the other ones you mentioned before there, and it's like you have a presence, and you need to remain dominant for it to be long lasting and for it to maintain that legacy. So I completely agree with that. For me, as a contrast to what you're saying, I like what you're saying with the lights. For me, the red lighting always hurt my eyes, although it looks quite good with you right now. Won't lie with that. But surrounding us is fireflies right now. How about sort of a blacked out with all the fireflies going, where there's just enough light as well from the spotlights above, so it's a darkened ring, and it's just kind of got that firefly feeling each and every time they can be in the ring. I think for me would be something I'd be more invested in. But last thing I just want to talk about with Chad Gable, because bless him, we don't know, no one's told us. But could you imagine, like we've seen, for example, with Bray Wyatt with John Cena back at WrestleMania 36 was the Firefly Funhouse match. Could something like that be brought in to express the feelings with the characters, where they can sort of see where they've gone wrong or what they've done in the past to where they are now? And like, for example, what we saw backstage, for example, Chad, who looked like he was murdered there, where like this can be your future if you do not change your past. For example, you have a broken family, you need to find that new family, you need to treat it well and treat it better than what you did the last time. And this is why all of a sudden he gets the Creed brothers, he gets Ivy Nile, and instead of being this bossy around like he's been with the Academy, he actually just treats the group normally, nicely. Still as a heel, and there still could be heels, they still do the heel stuff, but it's not the same Chad Gable we've seen over the last 8 weeks. It's more of a case of it's a machine, we're a machine, but we're a machine as one. We're not going to be someone that's going to be me picking on everybody else, because I don't want to end up what they've told me my future is, which is like that dead backstage.
Yeah, but my only issue is kind of like, the problem with that is if you do it for one, you kind of have to do it for everyone. And it's kind of like every time we have a faction breakup or a tag team breakup, with that kind of theory, I'm expecting these guys to be the redeemers and kind of be like, no, you guys broke up. Like, we're going to beat you both up. So you either get back together or you make new friends, kind of thing. I don't know. it's hard to say. I mean, the Chad thing was the biggest shock because he obviously he has a story and he has a faction sitting there waiting for him. That's why they've kept the Creed brothers and Ivy now off of TV and presume they're going to be the replacement. And it's kind of, I don't know, like, yeah, I couldn't even tell you, man. Like, it's just going to be weird. And like, I guess I'm afraid to, like, I don't want them to fall into the cliche of like, oh, this has happened, so now they have to happen. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, every time a faction breaks up, we have to send in essentially these 5 to tidy it all up and make sense of it all, and just like almost reset every faction that breaks up. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm like I said, I'm just trying to be really hesitant about getting excited about it because, like, yeah, I'm excited for this stuff, and it's again, I just don't really want it to go down the drain and just completely flop. Like, yeah, I'll keep saying it, but yeah, it's hard to sit here and imagine what they're gonna do. Like, we could be sitting here in 5 months' time and just be like, "Oh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread." So who knows?
Could also be the part that's the beautiful part about this is the fact you can have all your fan fictions all you want, but the fact is with this one, it's a bit difficult to predict the future. You can only speculate so far because of the fact that it
Yeah.
is something so different to what we're used to seeing in WWE. Like, this is something really outside of the box. So this is quite fun to watch and to see how it's all going to play out. Obviously, Adam Pearce, his social media was all changed apparently earlier on today, and when it was changed back, he completely no-sold it as if like, well, actually, I didn't see nothing wrong with this. The only thing I see wrong is all the vile comments as usual on Twitter. So, it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to do different little sort of story beats between now and the next time they appear. You mentioned, are they going to solely stay on Raw? Is there going to be SmackDown involved? Is it going to be NXT? It's going to be interesting to see how it's all going to play out. One thing we do know, Jey Uso has already said, you guys can have them Fireflies back. I don't need them.
But that's what I mean. This is why you can't have everyone ignore it. Because even if Jey Uso's just turned around on a backstage interview and gone, did you see what happened? You can have the Fireflies back. It's like, how can you have some people act like nothing happened and then have the rest of them acknowledge it? It's this is the bit where it's going to get conflicting. So I don't know, but yeah, just to add on to what you said a minute ago about SmackDown and NXT. Imagine they turned up in TNA as well. Have these guys go on excursion and just go around to all these weird places. Like, dude, man, go and see Crazy Steve in TNA for a bit. You know what I mean?
How much do they really trust in the system? But yeah, no, I know exactly where you're going with that. That could be a lot of fun as a concept and an idea. Oh, I had one last thing I wanted to mention on this just before I round it off, and it's just escaped me, unfortunately. But yeah, it's going to be a fun, wild ride to see where this goes. And we want to know what you think in the comments below. If you're on YouTube, then you can get involved on this video with comments. If you're watching on X, then what you can do is, well, the link is underneath the tweet of what you're watching. So you can just click onto that and you can come straight to this video on YouTube and get straight involved in the comment section. So get yourselves involved. If you enjoyed the video as well so far, hit the like button, share with a friend, and subscribe as well. If you want to stay on X on that side of things, you're more than welcome to. Happy you're watching. Just hit the like and hit the retweet as well, just so we can spread and branch out, get as many Fireflies join us as possible. But anyway, Steve, anything you'd like to add on this topic just before we move on into the comment section?
Do you reckon they're going to end up wrestling in the masks? Because I tell you what, that rabbit mask, that rambling rabbit mask, looks like that's going to be an absolute nightmare to wrestle in.
Yeah,
like Dexter's one looks cool as anything. I reckon Joe Gacy's going to be sweating buckets in that gas pig mask, wherever it is. But yeah, I reckon Rambling Rabbit, that's going to be an absolute nightmare if he's supposed to wrestle with that on.
He probably will be. Yeah, obviously he's got the sort of like the mallet thing as well, obviously, which Rabbit was killed with every time. Of course, he was part of the Bludgeon Brothers as well with Luke Carpenter. Nice little tribute going over to there as well. So yeah, it's all great stuff. Looking forward to seeing what goes next. It's pure fantasy at this point. So and remember the thing I was going to mention is I just hope then if it is genuine like this, that the people they take out, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, I want to see when we saw the sort of behind the scenes there, like the gorilla position. I want to see Triple H down. I want to see everybody down and really like we're taking over this company, and if it's going to be that direction.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, the rumor I heard was that the first person they're actually supposed to be going after is Seth Rollins, because come October this year is the fifth year anniversary of that infamous Hell in the Cell match, and obviously with them bringing back Bad Blood, it's supposed to be I don't know, maybe a story beat, maybe that's what they're planning. So I don't know, like coincidentally to have both Seth Rollins and these guys debut in the same night, I think there has to be something in that.
Yeah, 27 years since the debut. And of course, it was the debut of the Hell in a Cell as well. And that would be fascinating since Seth match was Hell in a Cell with The Fiend. If they were to do it with, say, Howdy, for example. I did wonder at the start of the show because Seth Rollins, like you said, did return. I did think to myself, oh, could there be a link with this? Because that would make a lot of sense for who they could target first. Because you're thinking all these people who they could go for. And Seth really does make a lot of sense. So if there is something, that would be fascinating.
All I'm saying now is that the ending of Money in the Bank is probably going to be very interesting because I imagine Priest and Seth will main event. Seth will lose. Hopefully, Priest gets a convincing win off his own back. But yeah, I imagine there'll be some spooky bollocks going down after the finish of that match at Money in the Bank.
It's going to be fascinating. Two, of course, specialists with Money in the Bank as well. Two former winners have cashed in before. Hopefully, nobody cashes in on them during the match to take the match with Gunther at SummerSlam. But it'll be interesting. It's going to be fascinating indeed. But let's get into the comments. Robbie Collins has been supporting Scotland against Switzerland in the European Championships, but still come to say hello to us. And of course, very happy with the Wyatt Sick6. Thank you, Robbie, for joining us. Hope you are doing well. Pierre in-house as well says his name and he appears. Joe Hendry. Is there some Joe Hendry believers in the chat today? I certainly hope there is. There is two. They're actually hosting this show right now. Robbie here says, believe the 6 member is Bray's legacy. I believe that could be the likely destination as well. However, Alexa Bliss is due to come back at some point, and of course, she could.
To be fair,
go on.
With that name, they could have an infinite amount of members.
Yeah.
NWO crazy spooky bollocks.
Well, because it's 6, isn't it? Like sick. This
yeah.
Sick individuals, so they can do that if they want to. Well, there still is the number 6 going on at the moment, but I've seen in some places they've gone with the S as well. So, however they want to play it, they, like you say, there's a lot that can be done. But yeah, it certainly was incredible. Pierre enjoyed it as well. It's going to be interesting to see what they do next week on Raw. That's if they're on Raw next week. Let's talk about Joe Hendry next then, because we've got this here. Pierre says also listen to pop Joe Hendry. Did you hear the pop Joe got last night? NXT? Joe Hendry was a star. He was a megastar. Guessing wasn't a star, was a megastar was the answer there. So Joe Hendry, let's talk about him because obviously he was on NXT. He was part of this 25-man battle royal, of course, to determine the number 1 contender for the NXT Championship against Trick Williams at NXT Heatwave. That's a very long sentence. Joe Hendry, though, got a chance to have his big entrance, which he got a big pop from the crowd. Like I said, it was very, very loud. The cameras were, in fact, shaking, which was quite cool to see. And then Joe Hendry got to get on the microphone, got to say his piece, got to say he was going to bring the NXT Championship back to TNA, got in the ring, and pretty much had 24 people against him when the bell rung. Of course, though, he was eliminated not by an NXT superstar, by his TNA rival, Frankie Kazarian, who actually defeated Joe Hendry just recently on a TNA pay-per-view against All Odds. So Joe Hendry was upset. He was backstage. He had a bit of a word for Shawn Michaels. A lot of people were upset. There was the Bull S word being shouted around, of course, as well on NXT. I'm just going to say one thing quickly, but I want your take on it. But for me, we say his name, he appears. I think he's going to be appearing more than once. I think this is the start of his story, and we should not worry too much because with what he got, the full entrance, which, let's be fair, only about 2 or 3 people got an entrance of that 25-man battle royal.
Didn't get one.
No, he didn't. Even if he finished in the final 4, he did not get. You had to kind of see him in the battle royal to know he was there. Joe Hendry got that. He got mic time as well. He got a chance to really showcase what I think is probably one of his biggest strengths is his mic skills as well, to get over with the crowd. He just felt like a big deal, even though he was there for such a short time. It's almost like you were meant to feel like, I want to see more of this guy. And I think you are going to get to see more in the future weeks of NXT.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, the fact that the commentary team for the last 2 or 3 weeks on NXT have been say his name and he appears every time someone else comes out. Like, it's been teased. I think they've even said on main roster a couple of times, but I'm sure Corey or Wade or Pat McAfee, someone said it. And it's kind of like everyone, they all know of Joe Hendry. And I think that's great in itself that this guy has got himself over from releasing a song. Do you know what I mean? And I wasn't disappointed because I think most people that just like weren't still hyped up about the moment. I think people that were just kind of like chilled and relaxed about it kind of sat there and went, oh, this is a story beat. We're still going to get more of Joe Hendry. There's no way they're not going to give us more Joe Hendry on NXT. And the fact that obviously you get the backstage segment with Shawn Michaels as well. So no, it's just another indication that he's going to be back again. And like, I imagine they'll have something planned for him for maybe Heatwave, whatever. But yeah, like I'm excited, man. He got a great reaction, and it's kind of like, I suppose it's always a worry for certain wrestlers when they go to a new company. It's like, do they actually know who I am? But yeah, man, like it was just great seeing that pop and him getting that reaction. And yeah, man, like I'm quietly reserved about Joe Hendry and how well his run's going to be. Like I'm sure, as I said, I'm sure they've got something lined up for him on the next day.
Absolutely. I hope it involves a song. That's what I want. I want to see him come back and I want to see him bury the NXT roster with a song in his own karaoke way. I'm sure for those, especially TNA fans, will have seen some of the ones he's done in the past. For example, Matt Cardona. If you've seen him in like the Indies, for example, ICW, I believe it is I'm Drew, which is the I'm Blue Dabba D version. Fantastic stuff. So yeah, I want to see some of that flavor brought to NXT, and maybe this is the start, because obviously he brought the idea of NXT versus me. Could this start be a bit of a vibe of NXT versus TNA? We see more TNA people come over in one go.
I'm sitting here I was sitting there the other day. I was just trying to think of like some old pay-per-view that WWE would own the copyright to that they can use instead of like having Invasion like they did in 2001, but like. Do you know what I mean? Not Forbidden Door, but something else that they could essentially do at some point, where it's essentially the equivalent of how they do Survivor Series with Raw versus SmackDown, but it'd be TNA versus NXT. I couldn't think of it. You probably have a better guess than me. Your knowledge is far supreme than compared to mine. But yeah, like I think that's the ultimate goal, is to get some sort of crossover pay-per-view. The only problem, obviously, with this is it's who wins what, because it's one of them things in it. And it's like, you don't want either companies to look bad, but do you know what I mean? Someone ultimately has to win it if it's based on a point system like Survivor Series used to be done by.
Yeah, and that's the thing with it. But I have got two names for you that came to mind very quickly. One being Worlds Collide was the first one that came to mind, because that's what we've seen previously. Yeah. Another one, not one of my favorite WWE pay-per-views of all time, but Bragging Rights could make a return.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that makes some sense. Yeah,
they could do it. But yeah, I would be up for the idea of NXT versus TNA, a super show at some point. I think they could make a bit of fun with it. I've actually done a video for those that have not seen it. It's available on YouTube right now. Putting a little card together. But is there any matches particularly you would want to see if we got an NXT versus TNA super card off the top of your head?
I mean, I think you have to kind of really go champion versus champion. Like, who's TNA? Is it still Moose at the minute?
Moose is currently, yes.
Moose versus Trick Williams do you know what I mean? In a champion versus championship title. Is ABC still the tag team champions in TNA?
No, they're not tag team champions at present. No.
So, do you know what I mean? Just essentially do champions versus champions. I'm trying to think of someone off the roster that isn't a champion that I'd just like to see. I mean, dude, why not get the Hardys in representing TNA? That'd be a great shout, just to go up against someone in NXT. I think that'd be really good. But yeah, just it's going to be interesting. I think for me, like a lot of people now, we're waiting for is the moment when someone wins a title, like a North American championship, and essentially that title then goes back to TNA, is defended on TNA. We get more WWE stars, NXT stars going to TNA to challenge for said title. I think it'd be a case of that whoever wins that title has to do double duty and would have to appear on both shows. So I think that's the key thing with WWE at the minute, is they're probably trying to find someone who they're willing to have take a title that would be capable of presenting. Like, obviously, if you go with Matt Cardona, for example, or Kurt Myers, Brian Myers, sorry, because obviously these guys are former WWE guys. They're people that they could simply go, right, we'll let him win the North American title. He knows the WWE system. So, like, they've got faith in these people. Like, I'm sure you've probably seen it, but like Jordan Grace and who was it? Someone else. They turned around and said the do's and don'ts in WWE are quite extreme to what you're not used to, or what the normal is with TNA. So I think it's just finding that that right someone, and at some point someone will defend us, like for instance the North American title, and we'll go between both shows, and it's exciting for the future, man. I'm hoping someone does it. Like I think I saw something else that was like Shawn Michaels is quite happy to book TNA superstars to face their champions, but it's winning the championship that is the deciding factor, and at the minute that just doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that would appeal on instance. So like you say, champion versus champion matches work pretty darn well. I will throw one of my suggestions from the video that I did, for example, Ethan Page versus Josh Alexander, because they were a tag team in Impact Wrestling as the North. So I think for that would go full circle would be a lot of fun. We're seeing that Byron here has suggested Moose versus Oba Femi. I mean, to be fair, that would be two big dudes. There'll be a lot of meat in that match. That would be quite a fun one to see indeed. So yeah, fun little suggestion, that one. Shout out to Nubi Cohen House, by the way, who's with us. How's how everyone's doing? We are doing very well. Thank you. Hope you're doing well as well. But yeah, I say keep believing is what I would say in Joe Hendry. I think that it's not finished for him as yet when it comes to NXT, and hopefully he gets a big push in TNA as well, because the momentum's there. They shouldn't have him losing matches as far as I'm concerned. They should try and push him towards the top end.
Early predictions, he's already in my top 5 for male superstars of the year.
Ooh.
Like, he has had a tremendous rise at this present minute. I would say he's definitely in the top 5 in a minute. Like, he's just got himself just from a song alone. But the fact is that he's made himself essentially he's made himself more valuable to TNA, and he's raised his own profile and his own value alone this year tremendously. Like, he's got himself over. So yeah, top 5 at the minute for me so far. But obviously there was still 6 months to go.
Well, I'm going to throw a little question out to our people watching, unfortunately. Well, you can answer it on Twitter as well. You just can put yes or no in the tweet. Why not? So we know. Would you want a half year of seeing what we think so far is the best male superstar, best female superstar, best match? We could do it in a quick formatted video and put it out for everybody. Let us know, yes or no. Put it in the comments of wherever you're watching this right now. We'd be interested to know if it's something you'd be down for. But in the meantime, I'm going to take on one of Pierre's comments here, which I think is quite cool. It links into what we're talking about as well, and also goes on to Drew McIntyre. Since Drew quit WWE in kayfabe, since WWE has a partnership with TNA, but asking myself, are we going to see Drew Galloway back in TNA before coming back to WWE in July, built with his SummerSlam match with CM Punk? Now, personally, I have a very different prediction for that, and I wonder if Silk may beat me to it, because I think he may do. But I will ask you first off, I think that this would be a fun idea. What do you think about this?
I like the sound of it as well. There obviously is a lot of potential with a lot of stars, like AJ Styles being another one, Drew being one, Bobby Lashley being another one. Again, he's a former TNA guy. So there's loads of guys on that roster that have wrestled for some point for TNA or Impact, whichever one you want to go with. So there's so much potential with stars to cross over with. It's a possibility, but at the minute, until it's reality, we can only dream, and I think that's most we can get excited about at the minute.
Yeah, I would say that as well. You know, it's a dreamer's scenario. I think it's something that could really work. I think it's a very creative idea. So Pierre, I want to shout props to you for this, because if it happens, I think I'd pop for it. I think it'd be a lot of fun. The only thing for me is, though, Drew's quit WWE. I think it's not going to be for very long, because if we look back to this past weekend, Drew McIntyre was cost the World Heavyweight Championship in front of his home country in Scotland. Someone cost him that opportunity, which you mentioned there is CM Punk. He's going to be on SmackDown this upcoming Friday in where? His hometown, and he's expected to announce that he's cleared. So I think Drew McIntyre is going to attack CM Punk, because CM Punk genuinely is not, I don't think is due to be cleared until the end of July to actually compete. So he's not actually going to be available to wrestle until SummerSlam if insider reports are correct. So therefore, I wouldn't be surprised if Drew puts Punk back on the shelf for a few more weeks to just delay this feud further to get it pushed so it actually happens at SummerSlam.
He's gonna have it's gonna be that old, I've got a ticket scenario. I bought a ticket front row kind of job, and he's gonna be sitting there and he's gonna pull it out, and he's gonna get arrested, and I'm sure he's gonna be carted off to a local Chicago police establishment where they're gonna handcuff him, and he's gonna be smiling like a Cheshire cat from ear to ear, and he's gonna absolutely love it. And you're just gonna hopefully, like, it's obviously gonna be one of those, like, it's going to be just a quality beatdown. I don't know how you have a quality beatdown, but like Do you know what I mean? There's this hard hitting. He just essentially just wails on him. Do you know what I mean? And just puts him on, like makes it predictably look like he's put him on. No, predictably, it makes it genuinely looks like he's put him on the shelf for the next 6 weeks. Yeah, and like he's the same as Ricochet. He has to be carted off in an ambulance kind of thing, and just build the tension and the bad blood between these two. I think I totally agree. I think that's what's happening this week, and yeah, like he's quit so he can go to SmackDown this week. You're muted, by the way, Steve.
Hello. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think that seems like it could be a lot of fun if they were to go down that avenue. So let's see if it does materialize for this week on SmackDown. But funnily enough that it's in Chicago and that Punk's been put there, it just seems like it's a natural fit for a Drew attack, in my personal opinion. Thank you to Pierre. He said yes for the half year so far, with the idea of having best male wrestler, best female wrestler match of the year for the half year period. So if we get a few of them, that's all I need. I just need a few of them. So get involved. Say yes or no. Preferably yes if you want to see that video. See Nation's in the house. He says the Wyatt Sick name is so unique. I like it. Yeah, I really like it as well. I like the way they've done it. It says justice for Joe Hendry. We think the justice will be coming in the future. CD just have to rewind about 10 minutes or so to hear us talk about Joe Hendry in full. But we're going to talk about Chelsea Green in the meantime. In fact, we're going to actually put the top comment on first here. PS says also, do we still believe Chelsea Green will win Money in the Bank this year? Because I feel the briefcase fits Chelsea's character perfectly. It certainly does fit her character perfectly, but for those that have seen the most recent videos of me will know I've changed my prediction. But NXT, Steve, I'm going to ask you first.
There's only 2 women that this will suit perfectly this year. One of them is Chelsea Green, but I think more than likely is probably the woman you're going to say is Tiffany Stratton. I think that we're going to get a beautiful pink briefcase that's going to be bejeweled, and it's going to have a fur handle, and she's going to turn it into some sort of a handbag. I think it's going to be fantastic, and I cannot wait. I like either one of these 2 ladies. By all means, put that briefcase on. Like Chelsea Green is doing fantastic work at the minute, but I think Tiffany's essentially the same as Bron Breakker at the minute. They're on the fast ride or fast train to main event scene, and it's kind of like if you want to make a star out of Tiffany, especially since she hasn't been on TV in a couple of weeks since Queen of the Ring or something. No, since Queen of the Ring qualifiers, I think, or something like that. I haven't seen her since, so it's been a while.
Yeah, I think she had a match, the SmackDown, I think before Clash. That was her last match that she had for.
Okay.
Oh, you talking about Chelsea? Yeah. Tiffany, sorry, Chelsea.
No,
Tiffany. Tiffany, yeah, Tiffany. No, she's been a few weeks. You're right. She's been assisting Nia Jax a little bit. I do apologise there. I had Chelsea in my mind for some reason. I got a little bit mixed up, but a little bit of a water break for myself as well.
Yeah, so hopefully, like I said, one of those 2 will get a custom Money in the Bank briefcase, because there's kind of the thing there, and if you want, I tell you what, if you want a character to appeal to young girls, especially in the way that it's not always Barbie dolls now, is it, with small young girls? Like, the times are changing and young girls are starting to get into fashion more. They're getting into cosmetics and all this kind of stuff. If you want just a number one seller in the shop, is you have a unique female specific Money in the Bank briefcase for one of them too. Don't get me wrong, most of the guys will probably buy them anyway, but there's a demographic for those 2 on this show, and I tell you what, they will smash it out of the park.
Yeah, 100% agree. There's a demo for both to make the win there, but I agree. Tiffany Stratton's taken my prediction now. Chelsea Green at the start of the year, absolutely. I think she should be in the match, though. Yeah, but it being in Toronto and being Canadian, she should be in it. But Tiffany currently the pick. But I also have a video for those that want to know who I think is going to be in the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. That video is also available on the YouTube channel now. It's a shorter video. It's about 7-8 minutes long. Just ignore the name Kiana James. That's all you have to ignore. The rest of it still legit could happen and probably will. It feels like it'd be Natalia that probably take that spot now. But CD says his prediction is Kevin Owens to win the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. I will hold mine just for the moment because I've got a couple of videos coming out over the next couple of days that will give that prediction away. But NXT, do you have a current way too early prediction for Money in the Bank?
Well, my way too early prediction was Sami Zayn, but that doesn't look like that's going to happen. I mean, at the minute, I think if you're going off story-wise, you're looking at either Chad Gable, as long as he's not dead, or possibly Jey Uso. Like Jey Uso, the fact that he overcome. Oh, who did he just beat in that triple threat? Finn Balor and I forget who the other person
Mysterio.
was. Rey Mysterio. So they're, do you know what I mean? They're like normally two good contenders for it. So I think Jay's looking as probably a hot favorite at the minute to win it.
And I mean, a Yeats briefcase certainly can make some money as well for WWE. You wouldn't put it past them, would you? Matthew Rodriguez has got a crazy idea. Let's see the crazy idea. Uncle Howdy has a glove that says Bray. That is Bray Wyatt. If Uncle Howdy puts the glove on his ear, Bray orders Howdy from heaven or spiritually. Your thoughts?
Ooh.
I mean, it's certainly an idea that can work. That with the spirits and stuff like that could fit into the narrative of the character. Don't see why not.
I like it, actually. Like the fact that it could be essentially like Uncle Howdy's having a mental breakdown and he's listening to Bray through his right hand. It's like, I like it. It's actually quite clever. And it's like almost like, yeah, I like it. It's spooky bollocks, man. It wins for me.
It can win, especially because the thing that I liked with what we had with Bray before was the heel and hurts ones as well. So if he, depending if like he's getting that message, it could be of either side as well, kind of like the good cop, the bad cop kind of vibe sort of thing that was going on before. But we know Uncle Howdy was trying to push Bray towards the towards the darker side, but in his last moments of the character. So it would be interesting how it would go down. But yeah, I think they've got something quite creative there.
Just another thing as well that I forgot to mention this when we were talking about at the start is the way Bo portrays Uncle Howdy. Someone said this to me. He almost had like a Jack Sparrow, like, you know, when he was first started walking and he was kind of like all free and nonchalant about it. And I was kind of like, if you can try and incorporate some sort of characteristics from like the Joker or, like I said, Jack Sparrow's like free caring walk, do you know what I mean? Just try and bring in some sort of, especially with the Joker, because let's be honest, the Joker is like one of the biggest villains in history, and if you can try and tap into some sort of method of trying to bring that over as well, I think that's going to add a lot more depth of character with him as well.
Yeah, I think it certainly could. And I'm getting more into this the more we talk about it. I'm just going to say that outright. I feel like it's I'm feeling it more and more. I mean, I actually watched the segment like a couple of times to try and take it into, because I was like creatively, then had to nerd out about it, and then I was trying to really fish and find everything that was going on, all these Easter eggs everyone was talking about, and I couldn't find them because I don't know, it was a bit dark and I'm a bit blind, and spoiler. But yeah, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling what you're saying. Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
And we mentioned Bad Blood earlier on. Apparently, No Way Out could be making a return as well. Not heard that from anywhere. So we'll take that as a Byron exclusive if that is the case. But we would not be against the No Way Out return. Particularly, it should just be that instead of Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you get rid of the specific, because in that way you're not tied into having an Elimination Chamber match on the show because of the name. But yeah, I mean, dude, normally they normally have a theme around whatever the name is. Like I like the Money in the Bank theme this year. It's almost very Dick Tracy-esque, like cops and robbers kind of thing. And like I'm liking the aesthetic of this year's one, so I'm looking to see how it's all presented, and I'm sure it's going to look fantastic. Yeah, I can't wait for that.
I love the video that they did for promoting it on WWE Fashion. Yeah, they've got the new logo as well. So come on WWE.com, get that logo up there, because damn, it needs to be put on videos. We've got thumbnails to make. Come on. C Nation says, I think Seth Rollins is winning the World Heavyweight title at Money in the Bank, because I think we're getting Seth Rollins versus Gunther for the title at SummerSlam. Early prediction, you said you hope Damian Priest wins at Money in the Bank, but if you had to predict, it's always different to what you want. Is it Seth or is it Damien for you against Gunther at SummerSlam?
It's Damien for me. I think you can't put the title on Seth for him to then go and lose it to Gunther a month or so later. Like this, like I think what they're doing is right. Seth is essentially owed a rematch, and obviously the whole ploy was, let's talk about Money in the Bank, and Priest is really on a face turn at this moment, and there's a story to happen with him and the rest of Judgment Day. And I wouldn't want again, goes back to the lineage of the championship. Priest needs a decent run as champion. He needs to actually get a win off his own back. And I think a win against Seth off his own back would do massive for him. Especially it would give him a bit more credibility going into face Gunter. Because if he goes into face Gunter and he's still, I could be wrong, and he could still be getting helped out. And hey, he could even defeat Gunter at SummerSlam, and like because of interference and stuff. Or it might even be a case of that he gets interference against Seth, and then he gets to SummerSlam and they don't help him and he loses. Maybe there's the story. Maybe it's a case of, look, we've helped you every time and you've retained. The one time we leave you out there to do it by yourself, you lose the championship, and that can maybe be where the split is. But yeah, they just need to add a bit more credibility to Priest run at the minute. And the other thing I need to mention as well, apparently from Clash, that was all selling by Priest, and I was like, oh my god, that's fantastic. That's the best selling I've seen in a long time. And yeah, obviously it probably hurt, but the majority of it was him selling. But again, back to your original question, I'd still say Priest wins it, Money in the Bank.
If I had to predict now, I agree with you. I'm going for Priest because, like you just said, I mean, he was pissed in that Clash press conference. He was really going at everybody like, I'm this paper champion and I'm supposed to hold this until here. And it's like, no, I'm proving myself. I'm busting my butt off, and I'm going against, overcoming every obstacle, every step of the way, and saying, look, see, I am that guy. And I think, like you said, beating Rollins really does help him further, because he was the one that lost to Seth in Seth's first title defense when he won that title after beating AJ to win it originally. So to see how far the Priest could come and then beat Seth Rollins the next time around, I think would be really good for his character and to show how far he's come in the last 12 to 15 months. But I do feel that what is most fascinating about the Priest and Rollins match for Money in the Bank is the fact that for the first time in a little while, I did have to question with Drew, to be honest. I'm telling a lie here, but I just genuinely feel like with Rollins and Priest, it's like this is the final stop before SummerSlam. And where logic told me that Drew could lose and Punk will get involved, then that would make sense for that. And heart over head. With this, I'm just literally, there's no heart or head involved here. It's a simple case of that either man could take on Gunter at SummerSlam and it would make perfect sense. So it's just a case of that. It really feels fresh, different, and exciting. And it's just come at the right time, in my personal opinion. Rollins' return on Raw this week was pivotal of just giving that injection of star power along with the Wyatt Sick6 making a debut return as well.
That, and it's also, I mean, out of the two champions at the minute, it's the only one that's got a credible challenger for the title. Because, at the minute, I still don't know who Cody's next challenger is meant to be. Obviously, a lot of people are expecting it to be Solo, but like we said when we did the review, we're expecting it to be a 6-man tag team match at Money in the Bank. So there's still some story building to be done with Cody about his next challenger, I reckon. Maybe it's Solo, maybe we're both wrong, but who knows? But yeah, I agree with you, and it's going to be, like I said, the only thing that for me is that for the lineage of the championship, I don't want Seth holding it for 6 weeks before he then goes and loses it to Gunter.
No, I can understand that as well. I mean, I do think that the title should be held a little bit shorter with runs at the moment, just because I think Cody's going to have a longer run, and there's so many people with the potential more that I don't want that potential to go to waste. But 6 weeks does feel like it's a bit unnecessary. But still, I wouldn't be against the Rollins versus Gunter match at SummerSlam. I wouldn't complain. I would say that indeed, especially as a comment that came below here saying that if Balor was to accidentally cost Priest Money in the Bank, it sets up their match for SummerSlam as well. I mean, that's a perfect direction you just do there. So then you have Rollins versus Gunter, and you automatically made Priest versus Balor as well. So yeah, I mean, that could work pretty nicely as well. Nubico here says, I get the feeling we're going to either get Chelsea Green or Tiffany Stratton win the women's Money in the Bank. It's time to break up Damage Control because they're losers ever since WrestleMania 40. Io Sky is not losing all the time, but she is losing, but she feels like she's really upset with Kairi Sane and Dakota Kai, who are continually losing. And the fact she's threatening to change the group as well if things do not change. Are Damage Control losing control and potentially going to be a bit damaged in the near future?
Possibly. I mean, Io's about to go on an excursion and go to Japan for a couple of weeks, so who knows? But ever since Bayley left that group, like I said this months ago when they did the split, that it was rushed and it wasn't. I didn't think it had a decent enough build to them actually doing it. And Damage Control have really just kind of gone flat from there. We got the result where everyone expected at Mania, and it's kind of like they're just existing on the roster. Obviously, Asuka's on the shelf because she's injured. I believe she's got a knee injury. So, yeah, they need to do something with them. Like I said, the EO's going to go, so you're going to be stuck. I think Kyrie's actually supposed to be going back to Japan in a minute. So it's just essentially just going to be Dakota sitting in the corner twiddling her thumbs. So who knows, man? They need to do something with them, but only time will tell with these guys. Like, hopefully, the women's roster's stacked, so you don't really need to do anything with them at the minute. Maybe it's just a case of give them some time off, wait till there's, I don't know, a story or something where they can bring these guys back in. Like, it's a case of waiting and seeing with these guys.
It is a wait and see feeling at the moment. Obviously, Asuka's out. I don't know how long she's out for, but what if EO on that excursion ends up bringing back Julia when she's fit and ready to go? No, she's injured currently. She was meant to be at NXT Heatwave, but maybe that's just scrapped now. Maybe it's just EO and Julia, Damage Control on Raw as a tag team and taking over that division. I would not be against that as a potential concept.
I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that either. I mean, if you still kept Kyrie and Asuka together, this is a stacked tag team division with just two teams alone. But again, I just worry for Dakota. Like, Dakota does best when she's with someone, and if she's got no one to bounce off of, I just feel like she'll end up just being lost in. She'll be a jobber essentially, unless she's given something decent. Like her run with Raquel Rodriguez in NXT was great, and like she should have won that NXT title from Raquel. It would have been a great moment for her. But yeah, that's the only thing I worry about is Dakota.
Same for me on that one as well. I would agree with the point you've just made, and hopefully she would be okay. But there's a lot of TV time, but there's a lot of women in a stacked division as well. So you could see her picking up some L's. She has been doing so already in the division. But C says, what if Gunther wins the World Heavyweight Championship and Ludwig Kaiser wins the IC title? They would then run Raw. Certainly something I think could be a question mark when we get to Bash in Berlin. I could see them both challenging or holding one. I think Gunther will be the world champion. I think Ludwig Kaiser will probably be challenging for the IC title come to Bash at Berlin. But it brings me on very nicely to the IC title because Bron Breakker, my goodness, on Raw, the spear on Ludwig Kaiser. There's a little meme going around as well with the Sonic rings as well, where they run around with the Sonic music and then boom, and then Kaiser just explodes with rings going everywhere. But it just, with the way that was done on Raw, I thought it was really fun because as much as I was enjoying the Sammy and Chad Gable story, and I really thought that Chad was still going to get the title in the end, he can further later down the line. It doesn't need to be done over a course of rematches for 6 months straight. I like the fact we've got a different direction, and I think Sammy versus Bron Breakker would be a great match. Sheamus, though, technically won that match, so Sheamus could be the one by DQ that could be taken on Sami Zayn. Ludwig Kaiser's in the mix. We could have a four-way on our hands here for Money in the Bank, and that'd be something I would be totally down for.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many names you can put into that bracket. I mean, it's even if you still include Chad Gable as well, you're then looking at a five-way, and it's kind of like there's so many people that are after that Intercontinental Championship, and it's actually really refreshing to see. Well, not that it's new, but over the last 2 years, it's obviously the IC title has just been elevated back to the level that it should have been on, and the fact that we've got so many people as well, and especially like Bron Breakker, who's having he's having a killer time in a minute, and like just spearing people for fun, and he's phenomenal at the minute. And yeah, it's the way they're building Ludwig Kaiser as well to be a genuine contender as well. Like I think he's got an opportunity of being in the Money in the Bank, but if not, if he's going to be in like a four-way Money in the Bank for this IC title, they're elevate. It's not okay. Do you remember the old days when you used to get these fatal four-ways or triple threats, and like one of them just always felt like a spare wheel, like they were essentially in there as the one to take the pin, whereas now they're raising everyone's bar up and putting them on the same level. I mean, Ludwig's obviously had some convincing wins recently. They've been running some decent VTs for him. Bron's obviously just destroying everyone, including Ricochet, who's like permanently injured now, and like permanently injured and never to be seen again on WWE TV. Dude, they could even bring Ricochet back for that match because I think he's still contracted as well. So yeah, there's opportunities to do everything, man. But I'm telling you, Bron Breakker is just gonna, dude. If he's not had at least one world title match opportunity between now and Mania, I'll be shocked because he is on fire.
The thing for me is, and I did a short for those that I've had the chance to see, and I said he shouldn't be involved with Money in the Bank. I think he should be punished. I almost was like, why is he going for the IC title? He should be punished for what he did against Ricochet. It's almost a reward to go for this title, isn't it? But Sammy's the one that kind of made it put together, so it's kind of your way around it. But at the same time, I do agree. I mean, Braun Breaker, the way he's been booked on Raw, you've got another top star on your hands. I said about potential and all this stuff. You've got Gunther, you've got Priest, you've got Breaker, all these like up and coming future top world champion heels. I mean, Priest probably is going to go to the face side, but I mean, goodness, like, I mean, Brock Breaker's quickly becoming one of my favorite wrestlers to watch on a weekly TV because of the fact that he's such a badass. Like, they booked him well in NXT, but I mean, the way that they're booking him on Raw, for me,
depending on how Vince booked him. Now, when Vince booked him in NXT, he was kind of just like meh for me. But this is like this version of him on the main roster, like the spear now, talk later, dude. I'm loving it. Like I'm much enjoying this version. Like if they'd have had him doing this in NXT, I'd have loved him a lot more in NXT. Like very in NXT, he was just kind of like it's just a Vince whingy puppet. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, I'm much preferring the way he is now.
I mean, with the Wolf Dogs, he's been sort of
that was great stuff.
A little bit. I mean, he was losing some of the big matches before that, but still,
I mean, his initial start when he first came in, like they essentially buried Black and Gold when they transitioned to Tutti Frutti 2.0 rainbow color fucking NXT. Excuse my French, but when they did that, Braun was kind of like he was just this guy that turned up, and all of a sudden he was champion, but. Obviously, since Vince has gone and Shawn Michaels has taken over, and he's had this great character development, and he's become quite a fan favorite. He had that great run, like you said, with the Wolf Dogs, because great tag team name. But everyone was loving him, and like he had that comedy. He was essentially what Austin Theory was doing. He had like a comedy role. And he was so relatable and entertaining. And now he's come up. He's already got people behind him because they loved him for being funny. And now he's just a vicious animal that wants to spear everyone. And I'm loving it. It's essentially like what Goldberg was like in the 90s, just speared now, talk later.
Goldberg apparently wants one more match in WWE.
Dude, please.
He wants one more match. He wants one more match. So I got misquoted that. I want to start that again. He wants one more match, Goldberg. Braun Breaker is the guy for it if it is in WWE.
Braun Breaker squashes him in 13 seconds. That's how you do that. Goldberg comes back, gives it the big in, headbutts a locker, busts his head open, bleeds all everywhere, has just one match. They get to Saudi Arabia because that's where obviously they do these kinds of matches. And Braun just spears the life out of him, pins him. That's it. Goldberg is dead to WWE now. He's gone. He's done. Bye-bye, Goldberg. Thank you. You're the new spear god is now here.
Absolutely. And with the way he speared Kaiser, you wouldn't argue against that. I think it's definitely the best spear in the business today. What are they podcast in the house? Hope you guys are doing well. Thank you for checking us out. And of course, they are on YouTube. They're on all your favorite audio platforms as well. So make sure and check them out. Fantastic trio. Do great work over there.
Just to go back to Braun quickly, so I really hope we get a Bret Hart Goldberg situation where he goes to spear someone once and has a metal chest. They have a metal plate on. I really want to see them redo that in modern times.
They should do it. They did it in NXT, so I want to see it on the main roster. Would be quite a clever way to do it. Was it? People tell me in the chat if I'm right. CD, I know you'll probably know this. Was it Grayson Waller that may have done that? I'm not sure. Grayson Waller may have been the guy. Might have been. But CD's got an opinion. He says Triple H wants Chad Gable to struggle. It doesn't matter if he's babyface or heel. Well, he's signed now, so he's regardless of what happens, he's signed. But at the moment, he seems to be mincemeat at the moment after all this past week. So let's see what happens when it comes to next week. But justice for Chad Gable, as NXT would say. But that's all from us anyway. We've gone through all the comments, so we appreciate everyone that has been involved on this video. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, then please hit the like button and share with a friend. Subscribe as well. And if you're watching on X also, then please like the video and retweet it as well so people can see it on catch up and delay what they may have missed, and just helps this channel grow a little bit. If you want to see more from this YouTube channel and you're watching on X right now, then the link of the YouTube channel to this video is actually beneath what you are watching. So just come off of the video you're watching, click on the link below. It takes you to the YouTube channel, this specific video. You can then see the YouTube channel and watch a whole host of videos that are waiting for you in the library right now. But NXT, I want to say a big thank you for having you here today, and thanks for talking pro wrestling with me as always.
Dude, always a pleasure to talk spooky bollocks with you.
Absolutely, indeed. It's been a good time as always. But thanks everyone for getting involved. Do see there's a few more comments that have come flying in, so I will actually give everybody just another minute or two before we do go. We see CD here says, I think the Hardy Boys will come back to WWE this year's. Their TNA deal is short term, apparently. Interesting.
Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame would definitely be the one we'd like to see for that. Byron says, and I don't think there's a possibility of 3 ladder matches at Money in the Bank. No, they shouldn't do 3. They should keep it at 2. One for the men, one for the women. That's probably where they should keep it. Bron Breakker could have the Intercontinental Championship reign that elevates him to the world title, just like Gunther. I completely agree. I think he will be the one to dethrone Sammy now. Poor Chad Gable. CD though says that Sheamus should beat Bron Breakker at WrestleMania 41. Long into the future, that one there, but certainly Sheamus does need to win the IC title before he leaves. And Drew McIntyre never wins at Clash of the Castle. No, it's Curse of the Clash, I believe Michael Cole said this past week on Raw. And Daniel Williams in the house as well, and Pro Wrestler of the Future. So it's working his butt off in Wales right now, performing there. So you never know, you might see him in the WWE ring one day. WWE has been so good lately. I've loved every minute of it. Absolutely, Dan. It's been absolutely awesome. And do you know, it's been awesome to talk to everybody in the stream as well. Thank you all watching so much. Look after yourselves and each other, and keep an eye on the channel as well. Money in the Bank match card predicted is dropping for you probably tomorrow. And of course, got way too early Money in the Bank predictions as well, dropping for you on Friday. So thanks for watching. Look after yourselves. See you for the next video.